Assalamualaikum.
We begin by praising Allah Azza wa Jal, Lord of the Alameen, which is mankind, jinn and everything that exists. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his slave and his messenger. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A father came to a shaykh once for a fatwa. Came to the shaykh and he told him, I have a big issue, a big problem, something massive. Bas istur alayya Allah yustur alayk. Cover what I'm about to tell you. May Allah cover for you on the day you want your sins covered. He goes, Tfaddal. So this man tells him, I have two wives and I'm constantly going between one and the other. It always starts there, right? I can see Ibrahim laughing. I'm constantly going between one and the other. And I have a 20-year-old son. This son of mine goes and comes as he pleases. And he's an alcoholic. Not only is he an alcoholic, but he buys and he sells alcohol. Now this child, this son, this alcoholic, the shaykh thought that was the problem. He started telling him we can do this and we can do that and there's rehabilitation programs and so on and so forth and we can talk to him. He goes, my dear shaykh, the issue is way, way past that. He goes, what do you mean? He said he came home drunk one of the nights when I was at my second wife's house. And he raped his 17-year-old sister. Now this shaykh was stunned. So I asked him, what fatwa do you want from me? What are you coming to me telling me this for? What can I help you with? He's already done the deed. He goes, Shaykh, it's even bigger than that. He goes, what can be bigger than that? He goes, she's 4 months pregnant from her brother. What do I do with the child? And what do I do with the son? I don't want to see him anymore. I want the Sharia law to be applied on him. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, now he wants Sharia law applied on his son. What about before? Why didn't he apply Sharia law when he told him to raise his son right and teach him everything that he needs to know and be there with him at all times, guide him, protect him, raise him on Sharia? Why did he not want Sharia law when and help and seek help or sought help to stop his son before he harmed someone else? Why didn't he want Sharia law when he was buying and selling the alcohol, harming other people's families and making other shabab addicted to the alcohol? Why didn't he want Sharia law in all those times? Was he too busy going from wife to wife instead of fulfilling the trust that Allah Azza wa Jal gave him, his son? Was it only when his son actually harmed him directly that he wanted Sharia law? My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, that's a sad case today. Only when Allah's law benefits us, that's when we want it. But my dear brothers, I've got a question. When are we going to wake up to ourselves and start raising our kids correctly? Whose fault is that for his son's actions? Who allowed him to continue in his sin until he reached the point where he would actually commit that crime? Who's responsible? If we had a toddler, right, at home, and we left him outside beside the unfenced pool, and he drowned, whose fault is it? If we left our son or daughter unattended on a busy road, and he or she got hit by a car, whose fault is it? If we left a boiling kettle sitting on the table next to our toddler, and he burnt himself, whose fault is it? My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, not only would it be these parents' faults, rather they would be deemed unfit as parents and their children would be removed from their custody. Why? Because they are unable to feel the trust. They are unable to protect their kids. They are a danger to their own kids. They are their kids' enablers. So why is it any different when we leave our children, our sheep, and we shepherds and responsible for our flock? When we leave our sheep unprotected amongst the wolves, what's the difference? If we're going to neglect our kids, if we're not going to give them the protection and the tools they need to protect themselves, then we shouldn't be allowed to have them. This is an amana, a trust Allah Azza wa Jal has given us. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, our shabab and sabaya, are drowning. The talk today is called Our Drowning Ummah. Our ummah actually revolves around the youth, the shabab and the sabaya. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, again I repeat, our shabab and sabaya are drowning. See, the filth and the fasad that we're facing today in our environments, picture it like a wave, like you're standing on a beach and you are facing the waves, one after the other, after the other, after the other. No matter how good the child is, no matter how well you've raised him, how much waves is he going to handle? How many waves is he going to withstand? 1, 2, 5, 10, 20? Eventually he's going to get knocked down. Where are we when they get knocked down? My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, let's say they muster up the strength and the courage to stand up again and face another 5, 10, 20 waves. Again, they get knocked down. How many times are they going to be able to get up again? How much will they handle before they'll stay down and they'll never get up again? This is the situation we face around the world, and especially in this country. Fasad and filth in every single direction. Everywhere you turn, everywhere you look, everything you buy, everything you do is tainted. Our youth are drowning. Our youth are drowning. Who's there to save them? Who's going to be there for them? See, the Prophet ﷺ said to the companions one day, how will you be? How will your state become when the youth, when the shabab become misguided and the fatayat, the girls, the youth, begin to disobey Allah? The companions couldn't comprehend this. أَوَكَائِنٌ ذَلِكَ يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Would that actually happen, Ya Rasulullah? He said, rather, it'll be even worse. He said, how will your state become when you stop enjoining the good and forbidding the evil? The companions could not understand this. Ya Rasulullah, would this actually happen? He said, it will even be worse. How will your state become when you begin to view the good as bad and the bad as good? The companions couldn't understand. That's borderline kufr. Would this actually happen, Ya Rasulullah? He said, rather, even worse than this will happen. He said, how will your state become when you begin to enjoin the evil and forbid the good? Allahu Akbar. A prophecy from 1400 years ago. Look at our state today. A mother will swear by Allah that she will not speak to her son ever again if he doesn't go to a haram party. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. What do you think the shabab and the fatayat get around to in school? What do you think their conversations encompass? What do you think they speak about these days? What do the boys speak about? They encourage each other. Let's go clubbing, drinks, alcohol, sex. There's this girl and that girl and this number and that number. What do you think the girls got up to? They bully each other. Are you still a virgin? You think I'm overdoing it? Wallahi, it's way worse than that. Our youth are drowning. My dear brothers and sisters, our youth are drowning. One very important thing I want to say, and please forgive me for saying this. See those fathers who were given the trust and made as the qawwam over their wives and their daughters. These fathers who disregard every single problem and issue and catastrophe that the youth face when a pious religious brother comes and asks for their daughter. They reject him, and then they go push and encourage heavily their daughter to marry a scum just because he's got money. Let me just send you a little message to these traitors. Why do I say traitors? Because they betrayed the trust Allah gave them. The Prophet ﷺ said, if a man comes to you with deen and akhlaq, religion and manners, marry him your daughters. If you do not, then know that a great corruption and fasad will be distributed amongst the earth. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, just a little message to those fathers, those traitors. Get ready. Get your answer ready for Allah, to Allah on the Day of Judgment when He asks you, why did you spread corruption in my land? For betraying this amanah, this trust. And as for the ones who do accept, they request massive muhur. So many conditions, so much complications and sophistications. So much so that they make the halal so hard, while at the same time the haram is so easy. And if this brother is not forced into the corner and commits zina, he's forced to accept these massive muhur. They think they're protecting their daughter, which is a big lie, mind you. Every single Arab or parent that comes along and gives that excuse, he's lying. It's just to say that I gave my daughter away for this much and I gave my daughter away for this much, as if she's a prized possession. He uses the excuse that I want to protect my daughter so he doesn't throw her around. But in reality, it's only a lie, because if that were true, he would make the mahar low. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, the most of you barakah is the one with the lowest of mahar. That's firstly, trusting in Allah. Then if you think about it logically, if I give my daughter to a guy for $100,000 mut'akhar, and then problems start to arise, and they have their counseling, and they go to their sheikh, and the sheikh finally decides that, look, there's no help for these people, their best option is to divorce. Do you know what happens right there and then? They turn on each other. They become like wolves. They turn on each other, and they start exposing all that should remain private between a man and their wife. Why? Because she wants the money and he can't pay it. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ لِتَذْهَبُوا بِبَعْضِ مَا أَتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ. And do not punish them or annoy them or give them hardship so that they can ask you for divorce, so you don't have to pay their mahar. And that's what's happening today. He could be a good brother and she could be a good sister. But when this situation arises and he can't pay it, and he knows how hard he'd have to work for so many years to pay it off, let alone if he were to get married again, or she, once she sees that big money, and she's really upset from him, so much so that they reached the level of divorce, they're on the attack. They turn on each other. When in reality Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. And do not forget the good that was between you. Even if you have to part ways. Didn't you live together? Didn't you eat, sleep and drink together? Didn't you even maybe have children together? Do not forget this good. Part ways in a good way. Who's the fault? Fall on the parents. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, our Muslim youth are drowning. And here's the thing, my brothers and sisters. See, these fallen youth, these fallen boys and girls, yesterday they were amongst us. Yesterday they were alive and well, so strong, so confident, so full of hope and life. They had dreams, they had ambitions, they had goals, they had purpose. They had so much potential and skill. They were beacons of light capable of doing so much good for this ummah. But we, may Allah protect us all, their parents, their trustees, their guardians, their protectors, we shattered their strength and their confidence. We strangled their hopes and their dreams. We corrupted their morals and their values. We crushed their ambitions and we twisted their purpose. We destroyed their potential for greatness, their potential to change the world, to be the revivers of this ummah in this century, when we left them for the wolves. When we left them to be taught by the TV and by the internet, by social media and by their schools, by their evil friends, until their light diminished, replacing their potential with addiction to drugs, sex, alcohol, tobacco, and pornography, and the rest that our youth face today. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, isn't it about time we turn to and help these youth? Isn't it about time we do something for them? My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, it's getting a lot worse in this country. The fasad is on such a rise. The brothers and sisters, the youth, are falling into so much haram. How much longer before what's happening to the Muslims around the world happens to us? Isn't it about time? See, Umar radiallahu anhu, he used to appoint his governors over the cities. And one of these days, he went to check up on a certain governor, a sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he asked around about this sahabi, and every single person he asked said nothing but good about him, except for one man. This one man had 4 complaints about this sahabi. He said, firstly, he's always late to work. Secondly, he never comes out at night, no matter how much we call to him. Thirdly, he takes 1 day off every week. And fourthly, wherever we are, in a gathering, even in court, while he's the judge, he just faints and falls on the floor. He's out for hours. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he knows who he appointed. He freaked out. What's going on? So he went and approached this man. And he asked him what the go is. What's happening? Why is this happening? Listen to this man's response, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. He said, as for always being late to work, he goes, I'm very poor. And I've got no one and nothing to crush my bread with. So in the morning, I wake up as early as I can and I begin crushing my own bread with my own hand until it's soft enough just to be able to put in my mouth and swallow. And then I come to work every day. As for the second thing, that I never come out at night, he said, by Allah, I give them, the people, my ummah, all day and all night I give it to Allah. He's always in prayer. As for the third thing, the 1 day off a week, he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I'm so poor, I've only got this garment on my back. And once a week, I go to wash it. Now when I wash it, I've got no other garment to wear, so I sit hiding in the bushes until that garment dries, so I can wear it, and then that takes me the whole day. And as for the fourth, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, he goes, I remember back in the Jahiliyyah days, when I wasn't Muslim, or back in the J days, as one of the brothers said. I was a non-Muslim in Quraysh, and I saw how the Quraysh grabbed a Muslim man, crucified him, and were torturing him non-stop. They were peeling the skin from his body, alive, and I did nothing. Every time I remember that, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, I faint out of fear of what Allah will do to me for not helping that man on that day. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, what's happening around the world is massive. Let's put that aside for a second. I'm going to say one thing about it. Something that Allah Azza wa Jal says. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ اللَّهَ غَافِلًا عَمَّا يَعْمَلُ الظَّالِمُونَ إِنَّمَا يُؤَخِّرُهُمْ لِيَوْمٍ تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارِ. For the people of Syria, for the people of Afghanistan, of Iraq, of Palestine, of Bosnia, Burma, all the Muslims around the world, I say to you what Allah Azza wa Jal says, and do not think that Allah is unaware of what these oppressors do. Verily, He delays them until a day in which the eyes will stay in horror. Allah is there for you. But let's turn to me and you here, right now. We see these Muslim youth drowning in haram and fasad, and it's only getting worse and worse. Are we going to get up and do something? Are we going to take the initiative and get up and do something before in 5 or 10 years' time our kids are in the same place? Before one day we turn a corner and we see our kid performing those actions himself or herself. How? The question arises, how? What do we do? We mentioned last week on the talk about the responsibilities of the parents, 3 things. I'm going to skim over them quickly because we're talking about number 4 today. The first one was dua. Dua, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الدُّعَاء. My dear brothers, there is nothing more powerful than the dua. Beg Allah. Beg Allah to guide you. I'm pretty sure each and every single one of us knows what's going on around today. He knows what the Muslim youth are involved in if us ourselves are not involved in it. Beg Allah to protect us and our kids and the Muslim Ummah. My dear brothers in Islam and sisters, whenever you ask Bani Adam, a person, for something, he gets annoyed and angry. But with Allah Azza wa Jal, He is so gracious that He gets annoyed and angry if you don't ask Him. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal. Beg Allah Azza wa Jal. Use the times of istijabah to ask Allah Azza wa Jal for guidance, for protection, for maintenance in our deen, and for a good end for us and our children and our grandchildren. Number 2 was righteous actions. We mentioned last week that the pious predecessors used to increase in their righteous actions so that Allah Azza wa Jalla can protect their kids. Which of us gets up in the nights and make dua for our kids? Our own flesh and blood. Allah Azza wa Jalla protected that man's child in Surah Al-Kahf. Why? When Al-Khidr built the wall, rebuilt the wall, because there was wealth under it and some orphans were going to take that wealth later on. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَأَبُوهُمَا وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. So because they were righteous. That's number 2. Number 3 was what I said, I'll take responsibility for this statement. It is wajib on each and every single parent. Wajib, fard. So there's no confusion. Fard on every single Muslim parent to sit and teach his kids every single day. Wajib. And we mentioned it's because there's so much fasad and so much corruption, and everywhere they go, on their phones and on the TV and on social media and at school and amongst their friends, everything they're learning is filth. If everything they're learning is filth, where is the guidance going to come from? It's only going to come from their parents. Sitting down and teaching them every single day. Every single day, from when they're young. Teach them that Allah Azza wa Jalla sees everything. Teach them how He supported the prophets. Teach them that, and make them understand the morals and values of Islam. Not just get up and pray if they say why ta'. Teach them why. Teach them to understand their religion. Give them role models to follow, because wallahi if you don't, they'll follow someone else. Teach them about the Sahaba who strove and sacrificed and bled and died for this deen. Build the iman about paradise and hellfire, and that Allah oversees everything. So that wherever they go, they're God conscious and they have taqwa. That was number 3. Number 4, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, that we want to talk about today is one of the greatest actions a parent could do. And this is one of the greatest actions because it's not linked to just righteousness or dua. It's actually directly linked to the guidance and protection of our children. And that action is da'wah. That action, that field is da'wah. See, the Prophet ﷺ, coming back to our topic, which is our Muslim youth, our Ummah is drowning. The Prophet ﷺ said, or he gave the example of the righteous and the non-righteous, of the non-righteous and the righteous who do not do da'wah, like people on a ship. The people who aren't righteous are at the bottom, and the people who are righteous are on the top. See, if the righteous at the top, every time the non-righteous at the bottom wanted water, the righteous people at the top gave them water. One day, the people at the bottom said, why do we have to keep inconveniencing ourselves? Every time we want water, we have to ask them. We're at their mercy. That's just to make a hole in the ship, and whenever we want water, it's right there. Here the Prophet ﷺ said, if the righteous people at the top allow them to make that hole, who's going to drown? Just the ones at the bottom or all of them? That's what da'wah is, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. It's not enough to just work on myself and my family. If we do not work on everyone else around it, our environment, if we don't make a better environment for us and our kids, will drown with them. See, Allah Azza wa Jal, when He sends His punishment, He doesn't send it to one person and not the other. He sends it down on the whole city, good or bad. Because the job of those people was to give da'wah. In another hadith, He goes even further than that, and He says, you will enjoin the good and you will forbid the evil. He's ordering you, He's telling you, you got no choice. You will enjoin the good and you will forbid the evil. Why? Because if you don't, Allah will bring down a calamity, a punishment upon you, and then on top of that, you will raise your hands and Allah will not answer. So why is da'wah directly connected to our children's guidance? It's because da'wah is actually taking with the asbab, the material means, to actively make a better environment for our kids. Every person you speak to, every program you involve in, every initiative you take to make this environment better, you've made it 1 degree less filthy or less bad for your children later on and for ourselves. So it's actively making the environment better. And see, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we did mention dua, and we did mention righteous action, and we did mention teaching our kids. But see, if we have a house, right, we've got a lot of fancy stuff in there, we want to protect it. Do we just put a lock on the door and lock the windows? Or do we take the initiative and we build a fence around the house, and we put an alarm system, and we put cameras, and we go that extra mile because that thing is very important to us, or it's very, very valuable to us? Similarly, our kids, it's not enough just to make dua and do nothing. We have to take the initiative and do everything possible in our power to protect them, to guard them, to guide them, to teach them, and then we leave the rest on Allah. No one makes dua for rizq and then doesn't go to work. Doesn't make sense. So we have to take the initiative. We have to take the initiative. We have to try and protect them from every single angle in which they might be corrupted. So TV, we've got to limit it. The phone, it should never be in their hand with no one around, at least not connected to the internet. Their friends, we should know each and every single one of them. Where they go and where they come, every step of the way. Wallahi, there was a brother who I used to work personally on for years. One day, after a bad spell, he just clicked and he wanted to turn to Allah. This kid was waking me up half an hour before Fajr to make sure I could leave earlier so I can pick him up on the way. And that lasted for like a month. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, one night I was tired, we finished the lesson, I just dropped him off, we didn't have a chat, I didn't ask about what's happening with him, what's going on. I didn't have that one-on-one, I didn't teach him, I didn't listen to him to see what's up with him. That one night I left him and I went. That was the last time I saw him, till today. That was at least 5 years ago. He got out of the car and a group of his friends were standing outside the house. Wallahi, I thought to myself, should I just leave him in the car having a chat with him till they leave? And I just dismissed it. He went with them, they encouraged him to go with them to meet up with someone, and they met up with that someone, and then a few weeks later he was in jail. I haven't seen him since. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, take the initiative. Every single day, sit down with them. Chat with them. Listen to them. Because they might do your head in for hours on end. And they might not be speaking about anything of any importance. But that one time they do speak of something of importance that you need to catch before it gets bigger, you won't be there for them. So my dear brothers in Islam, the da'wah is extremely important. We have to try to protect them and guard them from every single angle possible. And here I'd like to mention, everyone's seen this outside, right? On the wall. We've seen this, right? See, this is just what the Ummah offers. There's hundreds of centers around Australia, around Sydney and around Australia, that offer so many programs, so many da'wah initiatives, so many things that you can get involved in and actively make a change. Wallahi, my dear brothers, even if the fasad keeps rising and you put that effort in, real effort in to make a change, and it doesn't happen, Allah, through that one simple action, may protect your kids, even though the whole environment didn't change. My dear brothers, the Sharia courses, Qur'an classes, Arabic classes, SRC for kids, you've got, it does not end. You've got, in the Dawah initiative, you've got volunteers programs, open Islamic awareness panels, sports activities, Dawah group gatherings, Sydney Muslim youth for under 15s and over 15s. We have the Friday Jama'ah services, Rahmah recreational activities, street Dawah, community engagement, Jawle, the brotherhood camps. It does not end. There's something for everybody. Like, you could be the person who doesn't like anyone, doesn't like going anywhere. You could come and burn CDs and give them out. You don't know who gets guided. You don't know who it will reach. Who will listen to one word and benefit. Which kid will be saved by that one statement, that one CD. My dear brothers, all it took was one camp for me. One camp for me in 2005. And it just went on and on and on until I've come back now from a 7-year journey studying Sharia. I know a brother now studying also Sharia. He's getting into his master's degree. All it took was a series about Abu Bakr. He was into making money, he had cars and businesses and so on. That one CD, my dear brothers, that one CD, that's all it took. His mind was blown, who is this man? And then that just led him to the journey that he's on right now. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, get involved. Right now I've come back and I'm heading the Dawah department. All that means, Wallah is my witness, all that means is I am the servant of the people working in the Dawah department and the public. That's all it means. And we want to go ahead and we want to go forth and we want to build this thing. You see, right now, the street Dawah, may Allah reward them, have 3 or 4 venues, maybe 5. They put up stands in different places, anything to do with like Clean Up Australia Day, anything that goes on with Muslims and non-Muslims, they're there to show the face of Islam, to give da'wah, to show what Islam really teaches us. If we had more manpower, if we had more effort, more sacrifice, we'd have 50 places, not 3 or 4. When we go down to an event with 10 or 15 brothers, if we took the initiative, if our community actually cared a bit more than they cared about their own laziness, then we'd have hundreds coming down. And we'd have hundreds more entering into Islam. See, the kids program that's under 15 and over 15, it's at two venues now. Here in Padstow on Fridays and Saturdays, and in Lakemba on Fridays and Saturdays. Why don't we have our own massive competition for Muslims in every single area? A Sydney Muslim youth in Punchbowl, a Sydney Muslim youth in Greenacre, a Sydney Muslim youth in Roselands, in Bankstown, in Lakemba. Why isn't there a Sydney Muslim youth in every area? That's because we're not taking the initiative. We don't care. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I'm talking about your own kids, especially for the brothers who've got kids, who have got kids recently, or who are getting married now and going to have kids very, very soon. Don't you want to take the initiative and build something for them? Build an environment for them where all their sports, all their recreational activities, all their learning, all their events, all their friends, everything is in an Islamic environment. They don't have to go to non-Muslim competitions where there's all girls and guys and parties and so on and so forth. Why do every single time we want to go somewhere with our family, we have to go and get so many sins? Why don't we have our own recreational center? Why don't we have our own aquatic centers where the sisters can take off their scarves and learn actually how to swim, not to sink? Where the brothers can go and instead of going for a swim end up committing zina because of everything they see. The Muslim community here has been here for long enough. Why don't we have all these things? It's because the Muslims don't care, my dear brothers. Wallahi, it's a sad fact. But the Muslims don't care. We care more about our businesses than we care about our kids. Wallahi, I don't want to make it all pessimistic. There is change. I do see the newer generations now a bit more, what would you say? A bit more careful. They grew up here, they were born and raised here, they grew up, they know what's going on. And they worry for their kids. So they'll put that extra $100 a month to put him in a program where it's Muslims, where he plays his sports, but he listens to a talk. Where he goes to his outings, but he's encouraged to come and pray. Where he might get into a problem, but they'll guide him through it, how Allah tells us to guide them through it. But it's not enough. It's not enough, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. The fasad is so much outweighing us and beating us by so far. My dear brothers, talks and lectures and mashayikh and programs go on for months. The shaykh is preparing day and night, and then not even a movie, just one trailer for a filthy movie is watched by billions around the world. They're so far ahead of us. But we have Allah Azza wa Jal. The only thing we need is people on the ground to do something. So my dear brothers, the da'wah is the actual on the ground means by which we make that change for our kids. We provide a better environment for our kids. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, this da'wah, let me tell you something. What I mean by the Muslims don't care doesn't mean they're not Muslims. Doesn't mean they don't want Islam to spread. They don't want Islam to be in all our lives. But I'll tell you what it means. It means Islam is there, but it's not number one. Islam is there, but it's not number one. See, the Sahaba, one of the previous scholars gave an example. If you were to give the example of Islam and the deen and the da'wah as the sun, and the dunya, this world, was the shadow that the sun gives. The Sahaba used to put the sun, their deen, in front of them, always. It was number one. And in return, their shadow, the dunya, was always following them. They still got their rizq. You could be on your deathbed, and if Allah's written you millions, it's going to reach you while you're on your deathbed. But the reality is, Islam is not number one. It's not in front of us. It's behind us. It's number two. So in return, the shadow is cast in front of us. The dunya is in front of us, and we're constantly running after it. And no matter how much you run after your shadow, can you catch it? Never. Another example they gave was for Islam to be number one and the deen and the da'wah to be number one is as if it's on your head. You're balancing it on your head. It's on top of everything. And the dunya is in your hands. It's where you eat, sleep, drink, work, have kids. It's on the ground. It's there for you. It's in your hands. See, the Sahaba, if their deen moved, fell to the side, or was about to fall, they dropped everything in their dunya and look after the deen. But us in reality, as soon as something happens to our dunya, work comes a bit too much, we throw the deen and we pick up the dunya. And that's the sad reality. Because all it comes down to really is sacrifice. My dear brothers, I say it again, all that greatness ever comes down to, all that success ever comes down to, all that achievement ever comes down to is sacrifice. That's all it comes down to. See, when our businesses, we run our businesses, right? And in our spare time, we come to the mosque. I could be running a whole da'wah program. And tell me I'm wrong. I could be running a whole da'wah program. 50, 60, 70 kids are relying on me. And then I get an extra shift. I'll leave that whole da'wah program and I'll go to that shift. Am I wrong? But our businesses, our babies that we've been raising and running for so long, as soon as there's a bit of strain on that, we'll leave everything, even our families. We'll get into problems with our wives so we can maintain that business, so that it doesn't fall, so it doesn't crumble, or even lose any of the money I've invested in there. And in return, what happens? Our businesses are thriving. Why don't we apply the same principle to our deen? Why do we think that we could do that we have to do that with our business to keep it thriving, but when it comes to our deen, whenever I've got time, whenever I got the opportunity, whenever I'm not tired, whenever footy's not on, I'll come down and do my da'wah. My dear brothers and sisters, that's why we're failing. Because the dunya entered into our hearts and didn't just enter, it overrode and took the place of our deen and our Islam and our da'wah. It took its place. It doesn't mean it's gone, but it's become number 2, or even number 3, or even number 4, or even number 5. I'm sorry to even say, my brothers, even number 10. Because whenever you come to a brother and you tell him why aren't you around, why aren't you running your program, why aren't you coming to the mosque, 10 is the least amount of excuses he'll give you. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, everything comes down to sacrifice. Everything comes down to sacrifice. What are you willing to give to make that program thrive, grow, affect, influence, expand, reach millions of people around the world? It all depends on how much you're willing to sacrifice. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I feel very bad when I see a brother or a sister leaving this thing which is literally the actual material and worldly means by which they would guide their kids to give more time to the family. How does that work? How does that work? You're doing this for your kids. You're doing this so they have a small haven in this world full of fasad to protect themselves in. And still, it's not guaranteed. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, it all comes down to how much you're going to sacrifice. Sacrifice comes in every way, shape and form. See, that boy that was doing da'wah with his father for a very long time, going around knocking on houses, giving out pamphlets. One day, it began to storm, rain very hard, and his dad told him, you know what, today it's not convenient. Let's go another day. But the boy was adamant. He goes, my father, we're doing the work of the prophets. We're doing da'wah. Da'wah doesn't stop because of rain. So he left his dad and he went and did it himself. Trudging through the rain, from house to house, and the mud, and giving out his pamphlets. Istiqamah. Resilience. Sacrificing his time, his effort, potentially becoming sick in that rain and that weather, to go out and give out those pamphlets and guide those people. And my dear brothers, Allah paid him back for that small sacrifice. He knocked on the door of a lady's house the first time and she didn't answer. He waited and knocked the second time and she didn't answer. He waited and knocked the third time, and on the third knock, an old lady came out. And she took that pamphlet from him. He spoke to her a bit and she went inside. A little while later, this lady finds this boy and she comes up to him and she tells him, I've become Muslim. And I just want to tell you that you literally saved my life. And this boy thought, of course, Islam is guidance for everyone. It's a savior for everyone. It's so on and so forth. He goes, no, I don't mean that. He goes, what do you mean then? She goes, you see, I mean you literally saved my life. I was standing on a chair with a rope around my neck about to kill myself. When you knocked the first time, I got annoyed. So I stopped to wait and see who would call out. And no one called out. So I was ready to jump a second time. And then you knocked the second time. Again, I stopped. I thought, who's going to be knocking on my house at this time? In this weather? But then you paused. So I was ready to jump a third time and you knocked the third time. By now I was so curious, I took the noose off my head and I came down and opened the door and there you were. She said, I was all alone. No one around. At the end of my life, in pain. No one there for me. All my kids have deserted me. Nothing left in this world. What am I still living for? I was about to kill myself. You saved my life and you gave me Islam. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, how close might he have been to not going there and doing that da'wah? How close was I to telling that kid, don't jump out of the car. I know those boys are up to no good. It's 10 o'clock at night. They're out in the street gathered. What else are they going to be doing? My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, this guy sacrificed a little bit and Allah Azza wa Jal gave him a gift greater than this whole world and everything that's in it. He guided someone to Islam. See, even how many people do we know that won't even pray at work because they're too shy or embarrassed to make wudu in front of the people? Would you believe that a billionaire became Muslim and it all started because he saw one of his working washing his feet in the bathroom? He came up to him and told him, what are you doing? I wash my face in this sink. So the man asked him, how many times do you wash your face a day? He goes, 2. He goes, I wash my feet 5 times a day, so my feet are cleaner than your face. And that led to him becoming Muslim. That simple action, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. He sacrificed that awkwardness, that little bit of discomfort that he would feel making wudu in front of the people. And he was proud of his religion. Allah's not going to give a gift greater than this whole world and everything that's in it to just anybody. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, it comes down to what you're willing to sacrifice and give. You know, even if you have no time and you've got a massive business, right? Have you ever sat down and thought to yourself, I'm going to use, what do I need, 2 grand a week, 3 grand, 5 grand a week? Whatever else I make, because I can't actually make it down to the mosque, I'm going to give it as sadaqah jariyah to some sinner who's running programs, who maybe he's down the track, my son gets attracted to that sinner, and he's guided because of that sinner. We don't even make the intention. It all comes down to what you're going to sacrifice. And it all comes down, when I say sacrifice, it also means no compromise. When I say sacrifice, it means no compromise. It means that when Allah tells us not to do this and not to do that, it's all right now. Like that man who used to buy from his supermarket every single day. Every day he would come home and buy from the supermarket, and there was a lady there. And this lady, every time he would pay his money, he would put the money on the table, and when she would give him his change, he would move back until she puts the money on the table, and he takes it and goes. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, this action he did, so he that does not compromise and touch the opposite sex, absolutely demolished this lady. She couldn't get it out of her head. Every day she would think about this man until one day she just came and told him, please tell me why you do that. And she became Muslim. He told her, in Islam we look at women as treasures, as something very valuable that isn't touched by just anyone or anything. And she became Muslim. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, that bus driver, it's a famous story, everyone knows it. That bus driver, that imam of a masjid, who jumped on the bus and was given just a few cents extra when the bus driver returned his change. He sat at the back of the bus saying, what? It's only 20 cents. I don't want the awkwardness of just having to give it back to him and putting him on the spot and so on and so forth. And you know how the mind works to always convince you that what you're doing is right. It always happens. So, should I give it to him? Should I not give it to him? Should I give it to him? Should I not give it to him? As he was walking out, he goes, you know what? Here you go, bro. You gave me an extra 20 cents. What did that man say? He said, I want to become Muslim. He said, I knew you were the imam of a masjid in this area and I've been contemplating Islam for a while. And I wanted to test you. If their own imam wasn't even truthful enough to return extra change, then that means that the general people are very bad. That man came off the bus with his mind blown. He goes, I almost sold my religion for 20 cents. I almost gave away my religion for 20 cents. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, you sacrifice everything for Allah Azza wa Jal. You sacrifice everything for your deen, for your da'wah, for your kids. Everything, your money, your time, your effort. Don't worry, you can let go of a job here and there. You're not going to go bankrupt. You're not going to live in poverty. You can go to that event even if you're a little bit tired. It's alright, Allah will take care of you. You can say that extra word. It doesn't matter if it's a bit awkward. He might come to Islam. Or he might tell Allah on the day of judgment, he had the opportunity to speak to me and he never did. My dear brothers in Islam, be proud of your religion and give for it. The companions didn't achieve what they achieved by sitting down, by saying, I'm tired today. Brothers, blood, sweat and tears, their families and their wealth, they gave it all for Allah. That's why in 23 years they ruled the world. They gave their lives for Allah. They would throw themselves in front of an arrow to protect Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not because of Rasulullah, because they know if he dies, the da'wah is all gone. For the da'wah, for the deen. So la ilaha illallah can reach me and you. My dear brothers in Islam, would you actually believe me if I told you that people came to Islam when they found about our istinja in the toilet? One of the brothers mentioned this story to me years ago and it stuck in my head. Can you believe it's been at least 6-7 years? Until today it's stuck in my head. I was writing this talk and it just came up. He said he really needed to go and there was nothing but public toilets around. So he walked into that public toilet and he was doing his business and this massive Samoan guy just ran into the toilet, really needing to go. Started banging on the toilet. Get out, I need to go. Just give me a second. Get out, I need to go, just give me a second. At the end, when he finally got out and this man went in, as he was washing his hand, he came out, he goes, what took you so long? I was waiting, I was going to explode. This man was proud of his religion. He wasn't shy, he wasn't embarrassed. He goes, Wallah, my brother, in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ taught us to use water and wipe like this and wipe like that. Because your religion tells you how to wipe in the toilet. He goes, yes. He became Muslim. He goes, no man-made religion is going to teach you how to wipe in a toilet. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, if we want anything to thrive, anything to reach success, anything to become an achievement, to expand, to benefit, to affect others, to have an influence, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. The more you sacrifice, the more you receive. See, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we always see brothers who go on a high for a while and then what? They start going downwards. Wallah, I'm not feeling it anymore, brother. My iman's low. How do I get it back up? How do I this? How do I that? My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah created the body and He created the soul. The body's got its food, its nourishment, and the soul, it's got its what? Its nourishment. And we know in Islam very clearly, in every single person's mind, that which nourishes the soul is your connection to Allah, your ibadah, your sacrifice to Allah. When you give that 10 minutes to pray 2 rak'at, when you open that Qur'an and you revive your soul. But these people know this, and they go around doing when they're feeling down, leaving all the ibadat and all the mosque and all the lessons and all that. And I've seen it all, I've heard it all, I've been there, I've done that. You're your own fault. You're your own problem. You didn't sacrifice, you stopped sacrificing. What did the Prophet ﷺ do when things got too tough? When he couldn't take it no more? Ya Bilal, arihna biha ya Bilal. Oh Bilal, comfort our hearts, revive our souls with it. What is it? Salah. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. And seek help and refuge in patience and prayer. As soon as we're feeling down, we leave all our sunan, we barely come to the mosque, we don't come to any more lectures. As soon as our work gets a bit tough, we leave our programs, we leave our, responsibilities, we leave our da'wah, we leave our... How do you expect to come back up? That's the only way you come back up. That's how you got up there in the first place. By sacrificing, by giving a bit to the deen. How can you let it go and expect to come back up? The reason you were down is because you weren't doing it, and when you started doing it, you went up. If you're still doing it and you're not feeling it anymore, it's because you're at the level where you're supposed to go higher. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I've come back now after 9 years. In 2007 and 2008, 2006, 7, and halfway through 2008, we were running the kids program. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, till today, people are coming over my house and telling me, do you remember when you taught us that? Years later, 1, 2, 3 happened and I knew what to do. Do you remember when this happened? If I didn't fall into that and you weren't there to tell me, I would have ended up with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Wallahi, things I don't even remember. Qasaman billah, I do not even remember some of the things they're telling me. But I guarantee you, and I can swear on this, that it was only the sacrifice that our group put for them to reach where they reached. Because we didn't have nothing back then. We barely had the center. We used to raise the money for some of the things. We used to pay from our own pockets. I used to do a 12, 14-hour shift at security, and come in the morning to teach Qur'an and to give a talk. I'm not here to show off. I'm not here to take away my hasanat by telling you what we did. Wallahi, in Lebanon, in my university, I walked into so many exams, having studied so much, but felt so weak that I was 100% sure as I was walking into the exam that I was going to fail. And every single one I passed. And some I passed with flying colors. Wallahi, I could tell you, I was guaranteed in my heart, I was 100% sure I was going to fail. But I put the effort. I put the effort and I struggled and I studied until I couldn't study no more. And even though it wasn't enough, and even though I didn't finish the whole curriculum for that specific subject, I walked in putting my reliance on Allah because I know I put in the effort and I would do better than others. It's all about the effort. My dear brothers, what did I say today? What did I mention? Everything I mentioned you've probably heard 100 times. But didn't I put effort? Didn't I put effort? Haven't I been working on this since yesterday? I'm 100% sure, 100% yaqeen that Allah will benefit someone. Because I put effort in it. Not because I gave it. Not because I'm at the Ummah. Not because I studied. Because I put effort in it. That's why I never give a talk without putting a bit of time and effort for it. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, it's about what sacrifice you give. Just like you sacrifice your business for your business and it gets maintained and it thrives. Just like you sacrifice and you put in time and effort for your kids to study and learn and money, and they do well and they go to university and they get good jobs. In the same exact way, if you don't sacrifice for this deen, don't blame anyone but yourself. If it's not in your lives, in your kids' lives, or your grandkids' lives. We have the centers, we have the programs, we have the initiatives, we have the money, we have the time, we have the capability, the health. We've got everything. There is absolutely no excuse for us to have an entire community, an entire city of Muslims, and Muslim Islamic events, and Islamic centers, and Islamic programs. For everything that we want to do, shopping, recreation, outings with the families, camps, everything we should have. But it's all about that one person, the next Omar and the next Abu Bakr, to get up and take the initiative. The next Khalid ibn Walid, the next Salahuddin. What's the legacy you want to leave behind? When I die, are they going to remember me as that bloke that used to sit in the corner of the mosque and always used to hug that spot? If anyone stood in his spot, he used to get angry at him. Or are they going to remember me as the person who put a program down and 20 years, 30 years after I'm dead, it's still running and guiding kids all around Australia? Sisters, do you want to be that mother who sits on social media all day, leaving kids to get up to whatever they want to, and ending up dying, leaving behind a disobedient child who benefits no one but himself? Or do you want to do what Salahuddin al-Ayyubi's mother did? Did you all know that Salahuddin was actually literally the outcome of his mother? See, when he was young, he used to spend time with his father, and his father was very intelligent, very smart, very political, and he learned that from him. But he died. So Salahuddin was an orphan and his mother was a widow. She didn't cry and go crazy and keep her son close to her and put her time and effort and devotion into him to stay beside her because she's got no one else. She grabbed her son and she sent him to his uncle because he was a great man, he was a great warrior. He was a man with many skills, so he can go and learn from him. She gave up her own son, having no one else left in the world, so she can raise a man. And years later when he came back, she didn't keep him to herself. She sent him to the Khalifa, Nuruddin Zinki, because he was a great worshipper. He was a great abid who spent his nights in worship. So Salahuddin grew up being a man who had all three, the absolute combination of all three things, which is knowledge and intelligence, strength and capability, and worship and ibadah and dua. Until today, the West themselves cannot deny how great of a man he was. What do you want to leave behind? Wallahi, forget about all the time and the effort and the money and everything you have or don't have to do what you got to do. If you sacrifice, whatever it is you got, you reach success. And you leave behind a legacy that you'll be proud to stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal on the Day of Judgment. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to guide us and guide our children and guide our relatives and our friends and our mashayikh and anyone who's asked us for dua. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make our kids of the righteous, of the ones who pray, fast, do all their actions and work in the deen and the da'wah all their lives. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make our kids a coolness and a pleasure to our eyes, not disobedient and harsh, and every time we look at them we hate our lives. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to guide the entire Ummah. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.
We are one Ummah who should stand with each other through all the highs and lows.